And so I go on the website and I find my registration had been deleted. I try to look up my registration. I put in my login information. Nothing is working. Okay, I make some phone calls. Turns out I'm on the blacklist this year. And I don't really know why. I've heard a number of rumors. I know some things to be certain. I've heard, for example, that Cassie Dillon, who was a speaker at the conference, my friend and mentor, who I love and cherish, I heard that she put in a little word to the American Conservative Union, telling some lies to the people on the board. And maybe she was responsible for getting me blacklisted. I heard that maybe it was because of a Huffington Post article, which was written last year. Last year, a man by the name of Christopher Mathias, who writes for Huffington Post, he wrote a lengthy article about all the white nationalists taking over CPAC, among them Peter Brimelow, Patrick Casey, myself, others. And so everyone on that list had trouble getting in. People said maybe it was because of that. Could have been because of a Daily Stormer article that I was featured in after CPAC last year. I don't really know, but I was on the blacklist. And many people are quick to point out the obvious hypocrisy of this, which is that people like Jared Holt, Christopher Mathias, Caleb E. Karma, all sorts of journalists, their job is to go after and target right-wing pundits, right-wing social media accounts. They're responsible for getting Alex Jones deplatformed. As one example, they're responsible for getting Laura Loomer deplatformed. As another example. They were allowed in, they got media credentials, let alone general attendance, they got media credentials, no problem. But myself, Patrick Casey, we were denied. And that was interesting because it never used to be like this. A lot of people think, naturally, somebody like Patrick Casey, leader of Identity Europa, naturally Nick Fuentes of America First. Of course, these people are extremists. These people are really problematic in the conservative movement. Of course they're kicked out. Never used to be like this. You go back in time, they had a booth for American Renaissance at CPAC. They had a booth for VDare with Peter Brimelow at CPAC before. All these conservatives that run the American Conservative Union, they're trying to hide. They're trying to take care of their image and clean it up a little bit. We haven't forgotten who has been at CPAC before, so this was a major departure from the conference in years past. So I was banned. We had a little bit of trouble, but in spite of that, we had a pretty good time. I hosted a very successful meetup. Even though I wasn't allowed in the conference proper, I did host a meetup. I told people, and I made a commitment to people that we were going to have the first ever America First meetup at CPAC. And I could have very easily canceled my flight and not spent the money. It's not cheap, okay, to fly to Washington, D.C. It's not cheap to have lodging in Washington, D.C. and to do all the rest. Washington, D.C. is not a cheap city. So I could have said, I got banned from the conference. I'm just going to call the quits. I'm going to stay home. But, I did give my word. I made a commitment to the Knickers, to the America Firsters, that I was going to be there. And that's honestly the reason why I went. So we did have our little meetup. And what was most shocking to me about this meetup is that the people that showed up were fine and well-established people. I'm walking around the CPAC convention. I see a lot of ugly, smelly, hunched-over people, bad physiognomy, in some cases funny little hats, in some cases big hats, big funny hats. A lot of boomers, a lot of weird people, a lot of people with like QAnon buttons and things like this. And so that was the general CPAC attendance. But when I went up to the suite, we rented out a suite, and Broseph was very instrumental in that. If you've seen him around, he's on our Discord server. He set up a little meetup for us. And the people that came, we must have had a turnout of maybe 50 to 60 people coming in and out of that meetup. And the people that came in were handsome. They were normal. They were tall. They looked good. They dressed well. I saw some people coming in, and they looked so trendy. They were trendier than me. I was like, what's going on here? Are you lost or something? This is America First. They said, yeah, we're big fans of your show. And so you might have saw on Twitter, I posted the class picture of the first, perhaps the last, Nick Pack meetup, America First meetup, but I was surprised. And I think the takeaway from that is that the younger people in the conservative movement, they see what's going on. They're not stupid. Maybe Turning Point USA has controlled the world and they have all this money from all these big donors in America and Middle Eastern countries and whatever. But the young people aren't dumb. They see what's going on. And we have some of the best people, some of the smartest people that are showing up because they see the game that's being played. They see the fraud, the fakery, the grift that goes on CPAC. So I was very encouraged by that. You might have heard there was a little episode. I did actually end up getting into CPAC. I'm not going to reveal my secrets At the American Conservative Union, maybe they have to check out their security. Do they have some people in there that are crypto? Do they have some people in there that have nationalist sympathies? Maybe their security is just very lax. I don't know. I couldn't tell you. But I was able to get credentials. I was able to get into the conference, and I was hanging around the conference all weekend. People like sounded the alarm bells because I was seen and like exposed on Friday, but I was there the whole time. I saw several speeches. I saw several events, and I had no problems. So it's not like I came there to like cause a ruckus anyway, but there was one incident where on Friday, we were getting ready to do a little presentation. It was myself, Patrick Casey, Faith Goldie. We were going to deliver sort of a rebuttal to the conference and say, what gives? Why are the authentic conservatives not allowed? But before that happened, I said, you know what? I'm not going to be able to get in on Saturday because they do an ID check at the door. When the president comes, they'll cross-check your badge with your ID. So I said, I'm not even going to be able to get in on Saturday. So I'll try and get banned on Friday, for fun, right? So I go down to the exhibition hall because I know that's where all the den of frauds and people who want to get me kicked out, I know that's where they're all hanging out. And I saw my old pal Alex Sears, this goofy rube. He's like Cassie Dillon's purse carrier. I think that's like his official job title. As he works at Lone Conservative, he's the purse carrier. He sort of, schleps her little purse around. She says, "Oh, can I get my lipstick?" "Yes, ma'am. Yes, here. Here. Can I get my makeup? Can I get my yarmulke? Can I get that cross to shit on or something? Because that's what you do when you convert to Judaism, as Cassie Dillon does. "Yes, ma'am. Here it is. Here. I've got it right here in the purse." So that's his job. And I saw him there in the exhibition hall. This is where they have all the different college groups, all the different other conservative organizations, the NRA, Turning Point, a number of others. And so I saw Alec, and he made some jib about how I'm short or something. And I pulled him aside. I said, "Look, maybe it's time you start sticking up for your own people instead of taking money from Jews." And I don't know, was that out of line? Was that too controversial? Did I hit him too hard? I guess he didn't like that I said that. And so I'm making my way around the conference. We're kind of, shaking hands, just seeing what's up. And I'm having a good time. We're laughing. I'm talking to the Turning Point people. I'm making jokes. We're all having a good time. And Alex Sears comes over with security. He calls security on me because he knows that I'm kicked out because his boss got me kicked out. And so the security guard, he comes up to me and he says, "Hey, Nick Fuentes, you're going to have to come talk with me." I said, "Well, can you give me one moment? I'd just like to take a few pictures here." And he said, "Yeah, that's fine. Go ahead." And so they're taking pictures. And then I realized the name on my badge, I had a different name on my badge. It was Nick something, a different last name. It was like Nick Williams or something. So I got my picture taken, and they said, "Hey, wait a minute. You said Nick Fuentes, right?" He's like, Yeah. I said, "I don't know who that is. Nick Fuentes. I'm Nick Williams. I'm this other Nick. I'm this different guy. I've never heard of Nick Fuentes. Who is that? I assume you're having some problem. I don't know who that is." And the security guard said, "Oh, okay, you're fine." Then he turns to go away, and all these, I think there were trans people, other people just like chimping out, No, that's the real Nick Fuentes." We booked it out of there. We ran up the escalator, down the hall, up the elevator, and we escaped. Apparently, there was this big security fiasco. Security guards, I was told, are running down the escalator to the exhibition hall, hands on their guns, because people are saying there's like this white nationalist loose. They've got pictures of me on their phones. Everyone's, all this commotion, all this drama, and for what? Because I'm just a regular, authentic conservative. Yeah, I don't want the country to become Africa. I don't want the country to become Mexico. I guess that means I'm some sort of security threat. So, needless to say, unwelcome to campus conservatives. I guess I confirmed that I was banned from the conference, and that was what you saw on Twitter. People are making some jokes that it was sort of like Home Alone. It was one of those sort of like a Looney Tunes chase. People chasing me with a butterfly net. I'm like knocking over gumball machines, security guards are slipping on gumballs and stuff like that. It wasn't that dramatic, but it was relatively dramatic. It was pretty wild. And all of this is to say is, you see who I am, you see what I'm about, and I'm talking to all these people. I'm talking to people in the White House. I'm talking to people in the administration. I'm talking to people in the alt-right media who shake my hand and say, "I can't be seen with you. I can't take a picture with you. I've got to get out of here." I talk to all these people. There's no problems. They know what I'm talking about. They know that what I'm saying is true. They think I'm funny. They think I'm charming. But I'm not welcome at CPAC. Why? I go down the CPAC corridor, like I said, Jared Holt, Caleb E. Karma, Christopher Mathias, all these other characters are totally allowed. Every year, they have a protest outside the Grand Ballroom by like Transgenders for Trump or conservative transgenders. You've got this big, fat, middle-aged guy, I mean, clearly a man with like a wig on, holding up one of these signs. Every year, this little demonstration is allowed. You've got Van Jones on the main stage giving a speech. All of that is fine. That whole circus, whatever all of that is about, that's accepted, that's let in. They facilitate that, they welcome that, they put that in their little montage. Me, I'm chased out by security guards, hands drawn. People are spying on me, people are tattling on me. I'm being like listened to, tweeted about, all this other stuff. What kind of conservative movement have we created? And I spoke about this a little bit later on that night. It was myself, Patrick Casey, who was also banned, graciously put together this last-minute sort of press conference or event and a little bit of an Identity Europa meetup. Faith Goldy was there. She had her press credentials revoked. And we gave a little presentation talking about this problem, what's going on, and I think it received a pretty good reception. We were probably the most compelling speech at the conference, aside from maybe Michelle Malkin. And aside from my personal experience, which was fun and a little bit chaotic and hectic and look, I go there and I have a good time. I'm there to be a disruptor. I'm there to make CPAC look bad. If you're going to clown everybody else, if you're going to clown me, I'm going to clown you. And I think we basically decisively won over CPAC. People said, oh, you said you were going to T-pose on journalists. You didn't T-pose. And then I was in the montage video T-posing. And so a lot of that is fun. A lot of that is tongue-in-cheek. But I think it says something pretty profound about the state of the conservative movement, which is that it's completely gone off the rails. Again, it has been this way for 25 years, that the conservative movement in the country is not conservative. It's not right-wing. It conserves nothing. There's nothing right-wing about this movement. If you have people that are showing up to the conference to agitate for what? Transgender rights? You've got, obvious men showing up in ball gowns and wigs, and they're celebrated and they get to dance around and whatever. You've got Van Jones on the main stage. I mean, he goes after conservatives all the time. If that's the case, we have lost the Trump revolution. And so my story is just one microcosm of what's going on at large. Take a look at the rest of the conference. If you looked at the schedule for this week, you may have noticed there were 3 events discussing Israel. The first event was the most ridiculous. The title of it was something to the effect of why anti-Zionism is anti-Semitism and also a threat to national security. And so basically their first event is we have to browbeat everybody who doesn't support Israel. That was the first of 3 Israel events. How many events were dedicated to talking about capitalism triumphing over socialism, defeating socialism, and how we need to cut regulations and cut taxes and make it easier for Walmart to do business in this country, make it easier for the Koch brothers and the energy industry and all these other industries to get subsidies and outsource jobs and to offshore jobs and everything else. How many events like that? And you had one for immigration. And it's fascinating to me because this entire conference was billed as this is the Trump movement now. It's the MAGA conference. Trump has consolidated the base. If you saw any news reports about the conference, they said, oh, it's all about Trump's base this year. That's a terrible thing because it shows that the Trump revolution has been completely co-opted and taken over. This is what conservatism used to be like. This is what conservatism was like for the past 2.5 decades. And then Trump came along in 2016, remember? And he campaigned against Marco Rubio and Ted Cruz and all these other characters.